What's up, Bronco Nation? Welcome to another season of the Mile High Dipset, which is short for Diplomatic Session. This is your boy BX, aka the Mile High Diplomat, coming to you straight from the embassy right here in Richmond, Virginia. Where, as always, we're talking all things Broncos, especially with those diehard fans that do not live in Denver. Just like to open up some dialogue, talk about a few things about the team that we love, and be able to get your feedback and keep the dialogue going. So glad to be back. You know, I didn't get to do a lot of video near the end of last season, and with the kind of season we had, I really didn't want to talk about it. So I'm gonna be honest about that. But it's a lot to be excited about this season. So I just kind of want to jump in. I'm gonna share some things with you guys on this particular episode. Kind of want to be able to show you something I'm really excited about, man. I do a draft analysis every year. People around me kind of know what that looks like and how much time and energy I put into it. And so I found this little program that allowed me to organize my draft setup. So I was pretty excited, man, about how that worked out. I picked out of the six guys that we took in the draft. 5 of them are on my big board. So this is the Mile High Diplomat Top 50. You'll see here, this was April 22nd, about 2 days before the draft. And so this was my top 50. I was looking at these guys, man, going down, not sure if we were going to move up or do anything like that. And so ultimately we stayed put. I'll tell you who I really wanted was this guy, Garrett Bradbury out of NC State. That guy's a monster, man, at center, and I felt like we needed a true center to anchor down that line. And so right when we got to our pick, when we traded back, right before our pick, Minnesota grabbed him. And so the next guy on my board was Noah Fant, as you'll see right there. So we took him in the first round, obviously. And then coming down, our next pick, I had Dalton Reisner as number 11 on my board. Did not see the Drew Lock thing coming. I had him a little bit further down. I actually just didn't want him with the number 1 pick. So you'll see him further down because it was just a matter of if he's still there, then we should go ahead and get him. But with that with that third round pick, I did have Draymond Jones right here at number 26 on my board. So it looks like he's working out pretty well on that defensive line. Brett Rippon, I actually had him ranked fairly high. I love this kid. He hasn't looked that good in preseason so far, but this is a smart kid, y'all. I'm telling you, if he gets some time to develop on our practice squad and we get to keep this guy around, he's going to be a pretty decent quarterback, even if as a backup. I think he'll play some good football for us, but very, very smart. Can throw pretty much every route on the tree. Doesn't have a super big arm, but he makes really, really good decisions, and I like that about him. So had him on it. We ended up getting him as an undrafted free agent. Then you'll see I had Drew Lock at number 35. And then as we keep coming down is where you'll find Justin Hollins. I had him as an edge coming out of Oregon, and he's actually just made our 53-man roster. The only guy I didn't have was Juwan Winfrey out of Colorado, and again, didn't see that coming, but I absolutely love the pick. I think he's going to do some big things for us this year. So, again, man, I was really excited. If you're not following me, look up Mile High Diplomat on Facebook. And as the draft was going on, I was kind of posting before the picks who I thought we were going to pick. And it was happening, man. Some of my buddies around here were just like kind of amazed at how I was kind of making those guesses on the draft. So I was excited about that. I was excited with the haul we got. I think it's a good compliment to that draft class we got last year. That was really exceptional. So just looking forward to some good things this year. And with that being said, just kind of want to talk about the roster a little bit. We've made our 53 cut down. And hold on, let me get this right. I messed something up, y'all. All right, I want to do a new share. There we go. Okay, so I'm hoping you guys can see that. But anyway, just running through the roster real quick. I think it's a lot to like on the roster. Special teams, nothing really out of the norm there. I think we'll be fine with that. Secondary, I love our secondary. Chris Harris, Kareem Jackson, Bryce Callahan, Isaac Yiadom, Justin Simmons, Will Parks. Devontae Bosby, he looked good. I like seeing him come out of that American Football League. and Duke Dawson, who we traded with the Patriots for. So just some good guys there. I think our secondary is going to be really, really strong, led by Chris Harris. Um, Next up, our linebackers. This is kind of an area that's, I don't want to say weak, but it's not the as solid as I feel like it could have been. I thought we could have got an inside backer in the draft to kind of shore that up a little bit, but that just didn't happen that way. So Todd Davis, I know he's been fighting some injuries, as well as Joseph Jones, Josie Jewell, Alexander Johnson. We brought back Keyshawn Vieira. So I think the group is capable. I'll use that word. They're capable. I don't think you're going to get a lot of star power out of them. I'm guessing that in Vic Fangio's system, you don't have to have a lot of star power. They just have to be able to do their assignments and hold down their gaps. So that's one of those areas to where I'm just kind of about. Edge backers, love this group. Von Miller, Bradley Chubb, Justin Hollins, Malik Reed. Malik Reed just showed a lot as an undrafted free agent coming out this year. Excited to see him play. I don't want to be too quick and just say he can step in and fill Shaq Barrett's shoes, but it's kind of looking that way. Looks like he has a shot at doing that. I think a lot of that depends on how much playing time he'll get, but he's going to be in that rotation. And again, Justin Hollins, I liked him coming out of the draft. So good to see those two young guys being developed and getting some time this year. Defensive line, another strong unit I like. Derek Wolfe, Shelby Harris, Adam Gotts is that front three. I think they're going to be good. And then in the rotation, glad to see DeMarcus Walker kind of put all the pieces together, make the 53-man squad this year, and look like he's going to be able to play well. Draymond Jones, our third rounder, I think he's going to do well. He's going to come along and get some time and some reps. Mike Purcell, was glad to see him fill that spot. He's a big guy, another undrafted free agent, and glad to see that, man. I think he's going to play well. I was I don't want to say upset, but just kind of curious when we did not even really think about re-signing Domata Peko. I thought he played well for us last year. I know he's kind of getting up there in years. I think he's like 33, 34, something like that. But I think he probably could have given us one more year, maybe some valuable minutes. But, again, I don't get to make those decisions. I just sit here in the embassy and talk about what I see. So, anyway, but I think this is a strong line. That first three lineup, man, I love Shelby Harris. We all know about Derek Wolfe. Adam Gotts has been coming on the last couple of years. So, again, another strong unit there. The offensive line. Here's the thing that keeps me up at night, guys. I mean, Garrett Bowles, I loved him. I loved his tenacity coming out of the draft. And I knew that he was a project. He was going to need some work. But we're coming into year 3, and in preseason, we see a lot of the same old penalties and holding calls and stuff like that. It's time really for him to get it together. I think, if Mike Munchak can't get him together this year, he's probably going to be out. This may be his last season trying to get it together. Again, Dalton Reisner, loved him. Connor McGovern, I thought he was strong last year, and I know he filled in nicely for Matt Paradis at the center position, but I felt like he's a better guard than he is a center. I don't think he's a true center, which is why I wanted that kid out of NC State. But Ronald Lear, if we can keep him healthy, Jawan James, I think he was a nice pickup, paid him a boatload of money. These backups leave a lot to be desired. Elijah Wilkinson, Austin Schlottman, and Corey Levin. And again, once we get into the first week of the season, a lot of these things could change. We could pick up some veterans that won't cost us the entire season as far as their salaries are concerned. But right now, I think we're thin on this offensive line. I think if anything happens to that front five, we might have some issues. And I think we might have some issues even with the front five, particularly on where Garrett Bowles is. But we'll see. I don't want to be a pessimist. I don't want to be negative. I'm just kind of looking at what I'm seeing. I'll tell you what I was really hoping for is that John Elway would have found the money, found a way to make a trade with the Washington Redskins for Trent Williams. Man, you bring in Trent Williams at that left tackle position, Jawan James at the other tackle, Ronald Leary and Dalton Reisner on the inside. Man, I think now that's a whole new look for our offensive line. But that isn't what happened. I don't think the Redskins are trying to let him go, even though it doesn't seem like he wants to be there. But he's still on their roster right now, and we got a game in a couple of days. So we're going to go with what we got. And we're going to have faith in Mike Munchak that he's going to pull all of this together, and these guys are going to look better in true game time situations. So that's that one space, man, that just kind of, like I said, keeps me up at night. The tight ends, man, we have not been able to stay healthy at this spot. And Jake Butt, I just feel bad for the guy. I think he's got a ton of talent, but he has not been able to stay on the field. But really excited about the Noah Fant. I think he's going to develop into a really powerful weapon, particularly for oh my goodness, for Flacco. I was about to call him July. For Joe Flacco, I think Noah Fant will be a big target for him. Jeff Hireman has come on over the last year and a half, and so and he's been healthy. So looking forward to seeing him kind of lead this group this year. Troy Fumagalli, we got him last year. I liked what I saw coming out of college, and then he went to IR, so we really didn't get to see him last year at all. This guy, Andrew Beck, that we picked up to be able to come in as a tight end / fullback while Jano heals up. I think he'll be serviceable, but then again, we only need him for a couple of weeks, so I'll be excited to get Jano back. I think he's going to look good in his offense. So tight end group is serviceable. Okay with that. Feeling real good about the receivers group. Emmanuel Sanders, Cortland Sutton, Deshaun Hamilton lead the way. Tim Patrick, man, this guy, he's tall, he's lanky. He can make some plays. He can go up and get a ball for you that other guys can't. And Juwan Winfrey is showing a lot coming out of Colorado this year as another undrafted free agent. Of course, he played ball with Philip Lindsay. So just seeing those two guys out of the home state be able to make the team is pretty exciting. But I think he might be a sleeper this year. Keep an eye on Juwan Winfrey. I think if he gets some time, he might make some plays on the field. And then Deontay Spencer that we brought in to be able to be a return guy, and so he'll fill in that 6th slot on the wide receiver core. Running backs, we know these guys, Royce Freeman, Philip Lindsay, Devontae Booker. I don't know how long Booker's going to be on the roster. With Reddick being hurt, it's just a matter of how long it takes him to get back. I like that kid, Muhammad. I thought he might have had a chance to make the 53, but I also saw the problem with that is that he looks a lot like Philip Lindsay. So you really don't want to have the pretty much the exact same kind of back. You want to have more diverse backfield. Devontae Booker, he's serviceable. The guy will come in on 3rd downs. He can catch passes out of the backfield. He's good in pass protection. So, you really don't have any complaints about him, but there's no wow factor about him either. So it's kind of where I stand about that. But I think our backs are going to look good this year. I think we're probably going to see him from other commentators I've heard. You're going to see Royce Freeman get a lot more of the workload this year so that Philip Lindsay doesn't take that beating. But you're going to have that real thunder and lightning combo. So looking forward to that, man. Again, it's a lot to like on this roster. And then Joe Flacco and Brandon Allen. I don't know anything about Brandon Allen. When we picked him up, I went and looked at some tape on him. The kid seems to be mobile. Looking at it, if you go back and look at his preseason tape when he was with Jacksonville about three years ago, it looks like, I think he drafted in 2016. He came out and went to Jacksonville. Looked at a couple of his preseason tapes. He can move when he needs to, and he's not afraid to throw the ball down the field. So I don't know a lot about him, but I think from what I'm understanding, and even read here on the screen, it looks like he was just familiar with a Mike Shanahan type offense, and so they needed somebody that could get up to speed really, really quick. So that is my take on the 53-man roster. Again, it's a lot to like on this roster. I really feel good about the team. I think there are a couple of things that need to happen this year that can see us turn this thing completely around or just see us make some moderate improvement. And so with that, I want to talk about what I feel like might be the path to an 11-5 season. That's right, I said it. 11-5. I think it's possible, but there's some things that have to happen in order for us to get there. Okay, so I'm gonna run through the schedule and tell you what my thoughts are. So when we look at this right now, we see the Raiders week 1, and we're in Oakland. Now, don't get me wrong. I think the Raiders are much improved, but I don't think that they've taken that step yet, and I don't think that they have a better roster than we do. no Khalil Mack, no Amani Cooper. And I know John Gruden wants to do his thing and get his guys and run his system. But I think coming out the gates, they still may have some work to do. And I think we can go in and get a win here in Oakland. Um, so the second game, the Chicago Bears at home, I feel like that's winnable. And the reason why I feel like that's winnable is because I don't think anybody knows that Chicago Bears offense better than Vic Fangio. So I feel like we'll be able to contain that offense and we'll be able to make enough plays on that defense because he will also understand what that defense looks like and how to beat it. So I feel like that familiarity with the Chicago Bears and us being at home, we're going to get a win there in week 2. Now, here's one of my trigger games, and I'll come back to why it's a trigger game. At the Packers, I look back last year, and Fangio, when he played the Packers, he split with them. Remember that Week 1 game, Khalil Mack's first game, and he went bananas in that first half, and then the Packers came back, and I want to say they beat them. It was like 1 point. I want to say it was like 24-23 or something like that. Well, the second time they played them, the Bears actually beat the Packers. And so I feel like this is another team that Fangio is familiar with. We could possibly go into Green Bay and get a win, but I'm not counting that as a definite win right now. So I'm going to leave that one in limbo until we come back and talk about these 3 games that we need. The Jaguars at home, I feel like we can beat them. I feel like they're a younger team. I don't think that Nick Foles gives them a whole lot more of an offensive advantage. They're still going to have a solid defense, but they are missing some pieces there. And I think that we're just going to have a better defense in that particular game to be able to win that. At the Chargers, I am counting this game as a loss going into San Diego. I'm sorry, they're in LA now. I think I'm just always going to call them San Diego Chargers. But anyway, going into the Chargers home field, division rivals, they know us very well. We know them very well, even though we have a whole new look this year. I still think Phillip Rivers and team's going to get it done. Although, without Melvin Gordon, that is a whole different team. You know, I don't think they have running backs that are going to replace his production. So that remains to be seen, but I count that as a loss. Next up in week 6, we got the Titans. I feel like we can beat those guys. Most of our home games, I feel like out of 8 home games, we need to win 6 or 7 of them. So most of our home games, I generally give us the advantage. If you've ever been to Mile High, you know how much of an advantage it is. Not only the thin air that makes you breathe hard when you get there, but also just it's a tremendous fan base. So, you know, when you're there and you're around our fans, man, they make a lot of noise. That's a tough place to play in. So anyway, Titans game, I give us a win. Chiefs at home, October 17th, which yours truly will be at. I am planning to fly into Denver on October 17th to go to the Chiefs Broncos game at home on a Thursday night. Can't wait to see it. I think we have to win this game. So this is another one of those that I'm going to come back to because this is another one of those trigger games. So I'm going to leave that one alone. I'll come back to it. October 27th at the Colts. No Andrew Luck. Jacoby Brissett gone. I think we could go in and get a win. They're still a pretty good team. They still got really good pieces, but I think Andrew Luck was the thing that put them over the edge. And without him, I think we should be able to go in and get a win. And keep in mind, by this team – so let me back up at this point because we're right at week 8. So we're halfway through the season as far as what I'm predicting. I want to say this. In looking at our team, the first half of the season for us, I don't think is going to be pretty. I think we're going to win a lot of games, a lot of kind of ugly games. We're going to win a lot of games by defense while that offense starts to gel, be able to learn Scangarella's system, kind of get some things going. Get everybody back in the fold, kind of just adjust a little bit. So I think those first 8 games are going to be some ugly wins for the wins that we do have. In that you've only seen me say one team that I really kind of gave us a loss, but that Packers game could also be a loss. So 8 games in, we could be looking at 6-2, depending on what happens with the Chiefs when they come to town, maybe 5-3. That's serviceable. I'm good with that. But I just wanted to say that. But I think that by the time we get to mid-season, and if you look at this right here at week 9, we have a game against the Browns, and then we have a bye week. So I feel like that by the time we get to this bye week, we're going to be clicking a little bit more, especially on offense. go into bye week, make some corrections when we come back out of that bye week. And I think we should do some rolling in the second half of the season. So with that being said, going back, the Browns in Mile High, I just believe that we're going to win that game at home, although the Browns are supposed to look good this year, and I really hope they do. I've been liking the change in that culture and that attitude over the last couple of years, and just finally seeing them do well. I know they're in the AFC along with us, but just like to see that team play some good football. So excited for those guys. Hope they do well, just not on November the 3rd. November 17th, which is the day before my birthday, I will also be in Minnesota for the Broncos-Vikings game. Going to see that game at Minnesota. Last year, Vic Fangio won both games against the Vikings. I think he knows them very well. We should be able to go in there and get that win as well. Like I said, by this point in the season, we're clicking. We're starting to play some good football. Same thing at the Bills. The following week, we should be able to go in Buffalo and get a win. Then we have the Chargers at home. I think by then, hopefully, we should be able to beat the Chargers at home. And then here's another key game, the Texans at Houston. Depending on what they look like. So they got Carlos Hyde to take Lamar Miller's place. I would say that that's kind of a fair swap. I don't think you lose too much there. You got DeAndre Hopkins and Deshaun Watson. Those guys look good in that defense. Don't know what possessed them to get rid of Jadeveon Clowney, but hey, that's the way the league works right now. So without Jadeveon Clowney, I do think that defense loses a little bit. I think we should be able to win that game, but I can't call that for sure. At the Chiefs on December 15th, I think we take a loss in Arrowhead. The Lions, and that's to be decided. We played them at home, and we played the Raiders at home. Those last two games a win. So with that being said, this is why I say these are trigger games. For me, when I look at the math, I think that for home games, if you look at these, we should beat the Bears, the Jaguars, the Titans. Kansas City is questionable. That's why I have that as a trigger game. Okay, so let's say we lose that game at home against the Chiefs, and then we could potentially lose this game at home against the Chargers. Okay, I think we'll beat them, but these are just some spots I see. And this Bears game, I'm saying we're going to win that, but I'm going to assume we're going to win that. We'll leave that there. So with that being said, if we lose those two games at home, we're 6-2, okay, at home. That means we need 5 wins on the road to get to 11-5, which is why this Packers game comes into play. If we get this win early on, so remember we're taking a win at the Raiders, we get a win at the Packers. I don't see a win at the Chargers. I do see a win at the Colts. That would be 3. I see a win at the Vikings and the Bills. That would be 4. So then this Texans game don't matter. And like I said, I don't think we beat the Chiefs. But if we lose this game to the Packers in week 3 early in the season, that's why I call this Texans game a trigger game, because now this is a must-have on the road. If we win this game, now we've got 5 out of 8 wins on the road. We get 5 games on the road, 6 games at home. It's an 11-5 season. You heard it here first, straight from the Mile High Diplomat. That is my prediction for the season. I do think it's possible if those scenarios, those trigger games I talked about, don't work out, then we could end up 10-6, which should be good enough to get us a wild card. But I think 11-5 more than likely guarantees us at least a wild card spot in the playoffs. And we are back, baby. That's what I'm looking for. So, hey, that's what we're talking about here at the Mile High Diplomat, man. I'm just excited to be having another football season. I'm actually going to watch the Packers and Bears game tomorrow for a couple of reasons. 1, to scout both of those teams out. But 2, it's the first night of football, man. And it's a good game. It's the 100th season of the NFL. All kinds of reasons to watch football. I'm going to have the wings and everything going, man. I'm going to have a good time all by myself. But that's kind of how I do. And I'll probably have it set up, man. I don't know if y'all can see. Let me get out of my sharing. There we go. I want y'all to see I still got my flag with me over top. Bronco Nation, baby. That's how we represent. So that's what we're doing right now. As always, I'm glad to have you taking a look at my video. If you like the video, click below, give me a like below. Again, check me out on Facebook. I do a lot of stuff on Facebook. I post this video on Facebook. I've actually built a nice little following, I think a couple of hundred followers, which was something I never imagined, man. I just do this just because I love my team. It's not about money or anything like that. I just need somebody to talk to about the Broncos. And here in Richmond, Virginia, is not a lot of people, so I talk to you guys. I think I'm probably going to get on Facebook, and it's a couple of other pages I follow, and see if some of those other fans that don't live in Denver might want to join me. We could do some split screen videos and have some more conversation, but we'll see how that flows. But until then, coming up this Monday night, the Broncos at the Raiders. That is a really late game out here on the East Coast, like 10:20. Don't tell my boss, but I'm going to be late to work on Tuesday. But anyway, that's it, man. I'm excited. The season starts tomorrow. 100 years of the NFL. I think we have a lot to like on our Broncos team this year, and it only takes a couple of things to go our way, which is the case with every team. It takes a couple of things to go our way for us to have a pretty good season and kind of bounce back and get back into our playoff way. So there you have it. Again, enjoyed talking to you. This is your boy BX, a.k.a. the Mile High Diplomat, signing out from the embassy in Richmond, Virginia. I'll talk to you soon.